Actually, like it's crazy how simple it really is. The hard work is that most people don't go deep enough on this stuff. Like, what problems are they having? What symptoms are they experiencing? What are they doing to try and fix it? They'll just, do like, I answered it in like 2 seconds. Cool. On to the next one. Instead of like, what is the deeper level of that?
Mompreneurs, it's not business, baby. It's business and babies. Whether you're rocking the carpool line, building your business during nap time, or dreaming big after bedtime, we've got the tools, tips, and strategies to help you grow your business. Grab a snack, your headphones, and enjoy this time with us, because mom life and boss life deserve balance.
Jeff Wenberg is a full-stack marketer with 15 plus years of experience growing online businesses from the inside. He's led marketing at high-growth companies like Leadpages, Zipify Apps, and Sales Message, where he helped drive customer acquisition, scale campaigns, and develop offer positioning that consistently converted. Today, Jeff works with coaches and online entrepreneurs to clarify their message, craft an enrollment story that converts cold traffic, and rebuild demand for their offers without changing what they sell. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. So Jeff, Leadpages, I kind of want to get into there because
Yeah, sure.
I know Leadpages. I've seen
Yeah.
other entrepreneurs use it. I think it was very popular in the beginning
hmm
because there was
Yeah,
nothing like it before. Like in entrepreneurship,
correct.
when it was like really that entrepreneurial bang. It's like the big bang.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that journey and how you got into Leadpages and, the transition.
Yeah, so that's like a really good assessment. So back in like I guess that would have been like the early 2010s or whatever. Is that the 2000 aughts? I don't even know like how you describe that, but like internet marketing was becoming this thing or digital marketing. And to like just create a simple page, it took a lot of time and effort. And so Clay, the CEO, had created this company in the software called Leadpages, which made it easy to create landing pages. And at that same time, I was doing like video and content work, just like on my own. And somehow I came across his desk, and he actually ended up coming to my website and filling out like a discovery call thing. And I had never actually booked one ever other than him. And I didn't even know what it was. I just saw it pop up and I was like, wait, I know Clay Collins booked this. Like what? And so had to go back and was like, oh, it's that thing on my website that I totally set up and forgot about. And so from there, like I ended up doing some video work for them and then like joined the team eventually. I think it was like number 11 on the team. And like by the time I left a few years later, we were at like I think it was like 175 or so. It was like crazy. So like it was early on in the team at the time when, like you had mentioned, it was like a really like high growth stage of business for like online businesses and coaches and that sort of thing. And Leadpages is one of the two main options. And you guys and gals like might actually know like ClickFunnels. That was like our main competitor back in the day. And what was really cool about that job is I got to experience what it was like to see what happens when you have such a perfectly timed offer, perfect messaging, and the audience that is demanding those things. Because it was like literally like rocket fuel. Like we just put stuff out and people would buy it. And that was one of the big lessons from that position and that point in my career was just like, wow, this is all dialed in so well that like, not saying we didn't have to work, but it was like so easy to generate buzz and sales and everything because we were aligned with what our audience was wanting.
Yeah, that's amazing, especially with content creation and,
hmm
and everything like that. So, okay, so take us into video. So how did you start in entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then
So,
mention content creation and all that.
yeah. So, I mean, like I've kind of been entrepreneurial since I was a kid. So I kind of picked that up from my parents. Like, I'm from Iowa, so like we have the 5 cent deposit on like pop cans or soda cans. And so like we always used to go to the car wash with my folks, and while they would wash the car, we'd go dig through the garbage and get the cans out, take them in to get money to buy candy. And it was like, that was like really the start of it. And then I like started playing music in high school, and that's also entrepreneurship because you have to like try and get people to come out to shows and like just try and get people to care about what you're doing. And I didn't really know it at the time, but I was learning marketing by doing all of that stuff. And then, fast forward quite a while, I had moved to Nashville to pursue music. And in that time, I was working temp jobs and I was at like just this job that is like mind numbing, one of those where you're counting the hours and you look at the clock and it's like, oh, it's only been an hour. I have 7 more hours to be here. It was one of those just like, oh, and one day it was a rough one and I emailed my wife how I just was like, oh, this job is so dumb. And like, I have so much more potential. I just don't want to be here. And I sent it off and I actually sent it to my boss because their name started with the same first three letters. And so I sent that email to my boss saying how dumb I thought the job was. And I got fired that day. And that was like the only time I've ever been fired. And it was like kind of crazy, but it's also a turning point because I was just like, I can't go back to doing that. And so at the same time, like I had recording gear for my band. The site called Fiverr had just come out. And I was looking at it and there was like all these people doing voiceovers and I was like seeing what I might be able to do. And it was like, well, okay, I don't have a voiceover voice, but like my recording gear could make them sound better than what is on here. And so I was like, oh, whatever, I'll throw a listing on there. And then I think it was within the first like 3 days, I had secured like enough jobs and some people had hired me on after like the initial Fiverr thing that it was like, I just replaced my income in like, it was like 2 weeks, like from first gig, couple of days. And then like within 2 weeks, it was like, oh, I just made more than I would make at my temp job working 2 weeks. So then rolled into that. And then I was just doing voiceovers. And then people started asking like, this was a time when like video sales letters were just first becoming a thing. And it was like, can you do the video part of this too? I was, just wanting, out there hustling. I was like, yes, I certainly can. And so that's how I got into like video and voiceover and just kind of parlayed that from doing those videos to moving into like companies like Leadpages, where I became kind of like the face for a little while, where I was like the one on camera talking about the new features and the new services and, telling people how to use things and that kind of stuff. And so that's kind of like always been a part of my background when working for companies. But in that, like, that's really helped me learn messaging because I had to create all of the video content and figure out how to say things so people can actually understand them. But more importantly, how they can understand them and then want the thing that I'm talking about.
Yeah, I liked what you said when you talked about, like with music and your experience with music, and you had
Mhm.
to basically, how can you get people to care about
Yeah.
what it is that you're doing? And I liked how you phrased that because that is kind of like the tip of it. Like, how can we make people care? Like in brands, right? In branding
Yep.
and stuff like that. How can we make people, not make people, but how can we have people also caring
Yeah.
about what we're doing and want to attend events or want to show up in what it is that we're doing? So I kind of like the way that you phrased that was very powerful. So
Sure.
thank you for that. And the lessons that you've learned along the way. One of the questions that I have in my head is kind of like newsletter, email marketing. So
Mhm.
you dabbled a bit about that, right? With
Yeah.
videos, it's still kind of a thing. People are
Oh
still
yeah.
not really doing that.
Yeah. So I mean, really, where video is at currently is just like all social media. So it now becomes super important, like when you're creating your social media content, to use like really good messaging and positioning for your brand or for whatever it is that you're trying to build awareness around. Like you can't just hop on and, hey guys, here's this thing, like I want you to care about it. Like you have to say things in a certain way that it's like, it really gets people to think about, oh wow, like I could actually use that, or wow, what that person is saying is like really powerful. Like you have to put some thought into how do you position what you're trying to offer the market and then figure out a way to present it visually that is also somewhat entertaining. So it's definitely not, it hasn't gone anywhere. If anything, it's like probably more prevalent now than it was back when I was doing it full time. And it's definitely like gotten more complicated. But the thing I found is if your messaging is good and like the content you're providing is good and it's not like, taking forever to get to the point and all that kind of stuff, it doesn't really matter what the video looks like because people will just be like, wow, that was an amazing video. I've seen some amazing videos that I've just been like, wow, that blew me away. and it was just somebody like walking down a path and like the phone's moving up and down and it's but it was like the content itself was like that is so good.
I like that, and speaking about really good content, so, with all of our guests that come on the show, we usually have kind of like a little bit of an application form, which is also coincides with our upcoming online magazine that we're doing.
Mhm.
So this podcast will have a link to your episode and you'll be in the magazine as well, because
Sure.
I really feel like our entrepreneurial journey is so unique and we learn so many lessons from one another.
Mhm.
And I liked what you said. You mentioned in one of the questions that I asked was that fire all your clients and restructure. Now, that's a bold move. So what
Yeah.
led to that decision? And can you walk us through kind of like that moment in time in your life?
Like when I did that, you mean?
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, for sure.
The mindset,
Um,
like where you were, all of that.
Yeah, yep. So I had just left a company I had been at for like 6 years and went out on my own and like had rocketed up well past like what I was making. And it was like, wow, money's awesome and all of this kind of stuff. But I just realized that the clients I was working with, it was just like there's just something off and they're not the people that are like taking I'm giving you like my best stuff and you're like sitting here complaining that you can't figure out how to like post on Instagrammers. And it's like, I can't do everything for you. Like I can only do so much. And so it got to the point where I was just so burned out and like resented my clients that it was like, there's something wrong here. Like I need to take a look at what actually happened. And so once I did that, it was like, oh, I think what I did is I just like accepted the money rather than was like, is this person right for what I can help with? And most of them were not. There was some, there was like, yeah, like they, like they actually show up, do the work. They get what we're talking about and trying to do here. They don't complain about stuff that it's like, dude, just do a Google search and you could figure that out. It like I became like their crutch. And it was like, I don't want to be your crutch. I want to be the person that like empowers you to do the stuff. Like I'm not going to be the doer of your things. And so when I found that I was in that position after kind of reflecting, it was like, I need somebody who is a little bit further along. And so all of the people I was working with, they were like very beginner. And I'm not saying that like I can't help beginners, but it was one of like who I wanted to work with and who I would have the most impact on were people that already had offers and they just were stalled out and they couldn't figure out why. And so once I realized that, it was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to like fire most of my clients. And so I did that. And yeah, it was a rough road for a little while. Like, I went from like, wow, making more money to almost zero. And it was like probably the, I don't know, lowest point in my career and life of just like, oh my God, this is, and I could not figure out how to get it back going again. And what ended up happening was, through that process of just like, I don't know, I'm going to just try and figure this out. Um, I ended up getting the role at Sales Message, which was a great from like a financial standpoint, but also great from just like, okay, this is going to level me up in like learning and stuff, which is cool. But then on like my stuff, I started realizing why didn't those clients work? Like, and even like my own stuff that had failed, like, why didn't that work? And after just like really thinking on it, and then like it just hit me one day that it was like, it's their offers and not necessarily like the things that people get when they buy from you, but it was like how they were talking about it, or essentially like their pitch for their offers. And like that was the thing where it was like, oh my gosh. Like it was like a light bulb moment. And it was like they didn't have a good one. They didn't like eat everyone. I'd go all the way back through. And the ones that were successful, it was like, oh yeah, they are like they actually had stuff rolling. And then when we applied this stuff, it was like rocket fuel or gas on the fire, whatever you want to say. And it was like that was the difference. And so that's how I kind of transitioned from helping all things marketing to just helping with the messaging and the positioning to create pitches that convert cold audiences.
And so is that what you currently do now with your clients?
Hmm. Yep.
So okay, so that was kind of like
Yeah,
the springboard that
totally.
led you to where you're currently at. That's
Yeah,
cool.
exactly. Yeah. And it was a good realization going from like, a generalist to a specialist.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's always these pivots that we
Totally.
embark on, right? Like
Yep.
pivot, pivot, pivot. You're always going to be pivoting because it's either you're growing, you're doing the personal growth journey, right?
Mhm.
Entrepreneurship is kind of like this personal growth
Yeah,
journey,
100%.
right?
I feel like
You
that's
get-
probably more of it than anything.
I think so too. I think so too. I think everything is mindset.
Yeah.
And I remember in the beginning when interviewing a lot of like entrepreneurs, especially ones that are in the 6, 7 figure mark and beyond and growing. I know that's what they would say. I wish I knew about the mindset and
Mhm.
how that is really like the leading factor that once you change your mindset, your business changes, your life changes.
Yep, 100%.
And I didn't know how real it was until I started speaking it too. And
Yeah.
I'm like, mindset, what are they talking about? We just gotta
Yep.
work it.
Yeah.
So that was in sales message, and for those listening, I said sales MSG, so it really was sales message.
It's funny how often we would hear that. So longtime customers would even say that. So it just highlights that's like a possible branding issue, like people can't even say the name right.
That's right, because if there was an E there, maybe I would have
Yeah.
grasped
Yeah.
it. But
Yeah.
MSG, throw
Yep.
that's an ingredient, sales
Yeah. Right.
ingredient.
Yep.
Let's get back to your story because we all have lessons that we learn along the way.
Mhm.
So Leadpages, you learned the lesson pretty much on the impact of having great messaging and what that can do and what that can afford you, right? And those
Mhm.
experiences led you then. Let's talk about Zipify. Now, I've never heard of Zipify apps.
Sure.
So can you tell us a little bit about that and your
Yeah.
lessons learned there?
Yeah, so Zipify is an app for the Shopify ecosystem. So like it's all for e-commerce and they have a landing page builder, which is again, very similar to Leadpages, but strictly for the Shopify platform. And then they have like a really cool app called One Click Upsell, which allows people to create one-click upsells for pre and post purchase. So if any of your listeners are Shopify users, 100% would recommend getting this app because it'll improve your average order value without having to do much other than install it. Like honestly, it is that good. So it's one of those must-haves for any Shopify users. But while I was there, I would say some of the bigger lessons I learned were from the CEO, or more around mindset. So Ezra Firestone's the CEO, kind of a thought leader in the e-commerce space, and just watching the way he approached, what we were doing as we were building out the team and building out the company and scaling ads and all of that kind of stuff. He just didn't get uptight about much. And then I'm over here like, oh, I'm so stressed out. And he's just like, dude, I'm like the CEO and it's not that he was like lazy or like not paying attention. He was just choosing a different frequency and a different energy. And that helped bring me from like, super like anxiety and high stress to like, okay, I mean, if he's not worried about it, I should also like maybe bring it down. Obviously, we need to like make sure things are working, but is this really the problem I'm making it out to be? And I would say that was like a huge thing there. Outside of like obviously like the marketing tactics and stuff, the biggest stuff came in the mindset of just like, okay, we're scaling ads. Well, like, are we still, yeah, we might not be able to see every piece of it because there was like some weird technical stuff that with some of the data. So we couldn't always see like, hey, this ad led to this sale and that kind of stuff. So we had to wing it a little bit, but it was like, if we look at the whole, we're spending this much and we're profiting this much each month. So what we're doing is working. And it was cool, like, hearing somebody that's growing like a multi-million-dollar company, not freaking out about that stuff, and then just applying that to my own life and how I then approach things moving forward. So I would say that was probably one of the bigger things I took from the time at Zipify is just how Ezra kind of approached business. And I definitely liked it because it was way more relaxing and enjoyable to work on.
That's very impactful because I have also learned that your attitude is going to either
Yeah.
make or break you. Like the
Yep.
other day, I was putting together a proposal and then everything just went to the fire because I burned what I was cooking for dinner. I didn't have a very great attitude. And then also the deal fell through, because we always have moments like that. But we have to bounce back from those times that
Mhm.
we kind of like face. Like,
Yeah.
okay, burn dinner. The deal did not go through because it would have been worth it. Dinner burnt. It would have been worth it if the deal went through, big
Yeah,
stuff.
for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Wings. Let's just do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's celebrate.
Yeah.
I always like to celebrate after like a deal goes through. I either treat myself into something
Yeah,
or,
100%.
just to keep that positive energy going.
Yep. And you're training yourself that like hard work, celebrate instead of hard work, this sucks, hard
Yeah.
work, this sucks. So it's like you're literally training your nervous system to expect celebration rather than like negative stuff. So I love that you do that.
Yes,
And I
absolutely.
think adding on to that story, like I think what most of us do, I'm totally guilty of this. So I feel like I have the right to say this. But like, okay, you burned dinner, the deal didn't go through. And then now you tell yourself all these stories about what all that means, right? When in reality, the facts are, okay, the dinner was overcooked, deal did not go through, period. No, there's no other meaning, but we assign meaning to it based on all these like crazy things. And if most of us just stuck to the facts more of the time and not the stories about the facts, wow, things would be a lot simpler and easier. And like, I know I'm totally guilty of like creating stories that it's like, that's not even true. But if you look at the facts and then just say, like, hey, like, I have this letter on my desk that's all ripped up, period.
Yeah.
Not like, oh man, that's a bill that it's not a bill, but like let's say it was a bill, right? And oh man, I'm gonna be like this like you just like spiral when it's like they're just sending you a bill to let you know that you need to pay this much money. That's it.
I've also learned, and to your point, I've also learned that, especially when you're hiring out and things like that, because I remember, and I'm sorry to say this, and it's kind of like something I had to work through, like I said, it's a personal growth journey, but for the audience, right, people, we go through stuff. But I remember I had an amazing person in my team, and then she went on to do bigger and better things. But I did ask her, I was like, hey, what could I have done better? And stuff like, because she was amazing. I would have loved to keep her on board.
Mhm.
And she said, well, the pressure that you put on. I didn't know that the pressure I had as the business owner that I was also putting on to my team.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right. And that's part of the attitude, and
Yep.
and that's something that I had to work through because I was like, okay, the pressure is on me. I have to, from what you learned at, Zipify, right? Even though the pressure is on me, I have to learn to not take it so hard and then put it
Yeah.
and then like, what do they call that? Kind of like project the
Mhm.
pressure onto my team. We need
Yep.
this done now.
Mhm. Yeah, like
Yeah.
you lead by example, whether that example is good or bad. And yeah, it's crazy how much of an impact your energy can have on your team.
Yeah, and that's when you're talking about stories. Like sometimes you also craft those stories on like, well, if I don't get this done in this deadline, then this is going to happen, and then that, and then you're even though it's just email and text because we use ClickUp, people can still feel the energy,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
And so I try to set my intentions. I don't know if you do this, Jeff, but
Mhm.
I try to like set my intentions and, reframe it into something positive, like good things are going to happen. This is a positive thing. So I can project that instead of projecting the pressure that I'm feeling in entrepreneurship.
Totally.
So as you were scaling and growing and then pivoting, what made you, besides kind of like having that experience, kind of like what made you decide like I'm gonna just launch my own business and just go for it? Like I know it was kind of like you made more, in like a week.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
What really was that defining factor of this? Like, you know what? I'm gonna bet on myself. I'm gonna go, what did the wife say?
Yeah, I mean it's been a journey, like my wife's super supportive and I don't remember conversations other than like, hey, I want to do this. And she was like, all right. But I think one of the things that kind of led there was just looking at, everything that I really like to do and what I would do regardless of whether I was like getting paid or not, or just talking with friends, was around the stuff that I created my business for. So it was like I was already doing this and it was already valuable to people. So like my friends would always call me to be like, "Hey, like I got this funnel and like it's not working and what do you think?" And like just random things. And like I remember my one friend, he was like, uh, I vividly remember this. I was talking to him on my couch in my basement, just laying there. And like a couple weeks later, he's like, "Hey, that tip you gave me when we talked, it was like 70 grand." And it was like, "What?" Oh, I just like that was like off the cuff for me. And it was like that's the fun stuff. And it took me forever, like years, to figure out what that was, which then that was coupled with what I was talking about earlier of like really discovering that it was like, oh, people, they don't have their pitches dialed in. What I was helping people with was communicating the value of their offers. And I just didn't know what it was. But that is what really kind of like led there is like, I've always just wanted to help people. And then if I could do it in a way that leverages my expertise to make it valuable for them and valuable for me, it's like a win-win. And so it's like, that's what I want to do. And through like my positions, like I would always have to coach people and stuff like our users. And I just found that I really liked it. And so I was like, I could totally do this on my own. And so like I've always just kind of done that on the side and have, scaled that out over the years. But one thing that you mentioned about that, like the messaging and stuff and, the stories and the energy you put into, like you were mentioning ClickUp of it's just text and whatnot and email, people can pick up on it. The same thing goes into your content and your writing and your messaging. Like if you're approaching it from like, I just don't know if anyone's going to buy this. I don't know, like if I can do this, like, can I actually deliver what I'm saying here? Like that is all communicated subconsciously or whatever, subliminally through your content. And like, if you do a lot of video content, like people pick up on that real quick. And so if you're stuck in that like 200 to 300 view per reel zone or whatever, like, so I hear so many people talking about that. Like I've been stuck there too. So like I feel the pain of that statement. And when you start looking at the energy you're putting into it, whether it's like, I have to create content or like, I don't want to be doing this or whatever it might be, that's what comes through instead of like, wow, I get to help somebody, even if it was one person with this piece of content, that is a win for me. If I get a, I get to wake up today and do something that I actually like. You know what I mean? Like just building that into it. And it's not like you have to preach that from the mountaintops, but if you have that running underneath it, when you go to create it, it's just going to hit a different level. And that's the stuff that people pick up on and resonate with.
100%. I was like shaking my head yes throughout that whole on that whole thing that you just dropped, the whole golden nuggets that you pretty much dropped. Like if you need to rewind and listen back to that, please do.
Yeah.
Because that was amazing. And it's something that I figured out also within my business. Cause I remember this is what I did. I'm gonna give you a little thing that I did that I figured that out too and I didn't know how deep that went until like hiring team members and stuff like that. But anyways, that's beside the point. So when I was first starting to grow my business, I started with kind of like Facebook groups. And I did, and I would pitch myself to Facebook groups and one of the things that I asked myself was kind of like, what was the secret between these two same comments in the Facebook group, same exact structure, comment, but one gets 200 engaging comments, another one gets 0. And that is what you just said right now. The difference is the intention. And then I started testing out my intentions instead of thinking like, ooh, I want a whole bunch of people to comment on here and I want a whole bunch of people wanting my link, right? And getting people in my email list. I started thinking like, I just want to help somebody. I just want to help one person. And I started with that and setting my intention right before I even commented. And that thing will blow up.
Yeah.
That comment,
It's powerful.
yeah, it's very powerful. And I think that we do not understand how much that spirit, call it spiritual, but we're all connected, right? There's a saying that is like, we're all one, right? We're all connected. And, especially if we know that there's an all-knowing God and God Almighty. Like I believe in create the Creator, and I believe in Jesus, and a lot of our other listeners are Christian. And one of the things that I notice is that we all have kind of like the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit knows each and every single one of us. And if we're all connected like that, we can discern whether something is
Hmm.
authentic or something is kind of like,
Yeah.
they're just, someone that doesn't want to really help others and they're just trying to help themselves. And I
Yep.
think discernment is one of those things that people have discernment. Buyers have discernment. So you have to be careful on your intentions when you're commenting, creating a reel, creating content, as you were saying. So
Hmm.
I think that was absolutely powerful. I had to dig deeper in there
Yeah.
because I don't think enough people are talking about that that part of business,
Hmm. I'd say
right?
it's like outside of like making sure your messaging is dialed in and like how you're talking about things, I'd say it's like the biggest piece. And that's why you see every type of offer work, like, high ticket offers, low ticket offers, webinar funnels, whatever type of funnel, call funnels, book funnels, whatever, they all work. It's just not, they don't work for everybody. And, and it's like, if you look at the people that are doing them, it's like because they're tuned into the frequency of this is going to work, but that one won't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say I like that frequency. You're like,
Yeah.
go ahead, go ahead. I was getting excited. I
Yeah.
like the whole thing of frequency resonance, right?
Yeah.
So I remember listening to someone and they were talking, it was very impactful and something that I took into my business as well. They were talking about how an instrument, if you have a stringed instrument, right? And it's, like a guitar or something like that. And you
Hmm.
play a C chord, right? Like you just play a C chord, not on the guitar, but the C chord on the guitar will vibrate. So that's called resonance.
Yep.
And I thought that was, like, so we all have resonance within each other and we can feel things. And it's almost like, oh, that hit a chord, right? So sometimes we say,
Yeah.
we say that, right? That saying of that figure of speech that people say, hey, you just hit a chord right there.
Mhm.
Jeff, you just hit a chord right there on what it is that you're talking
I
about.
sure did.
Yeah. Um, let's move on to you said in the form that your mind is your biggest hurdle. I love that
Hmm.
because that like we talked about, right? Mindset is a big shift. And the way that we decipher information, the way we energetically feel, because I really feel we're all emotional buyers. I don't know if one day
Hmm.
you're like, ooh, that
Yeah.
feels good. Let me buy it. It feels good. Get in the spirit.
Yep.
Let me go ahead and grab that. So why would you say that? Like, what are some of the mindset shifts that helped you move forward when things got hard?
Yeah. Still working on it. It's like a work in progress. So I'm by no means a master, but one of the like it was last night actually, like this thought came into my head of just like there's for myself at least, like looking back, there's just been a lack of conviction into like what it is that I'm like trying to sell or offer the market or whatever. And it's been more of like a 99% instead of 100%. And that 1% makes night and day difference where it's like, yeah, I want to try and like do this and like, I hope it goes well versus nope, 100% done. And there's no way this is not going to work. Those are the two things. And where I was caught was like the lack of conviction. So you have to have conviction and then you have to have belief and trust in yourself that you can actually accomplish what you're saying you're going to accomplish. And a lot of times it's like, I don't know if I believe that I can actually pull this off. And when you're in that area of like, I don't have proof, that's when you need to start gathering evidence and gathering proof to back up your belief that backs up the conviction. And then on top of that, you got to have fun built into it, like the things that you find fun, so that that can fill your cup while you're going on that journey of doing this hard thing. So if you have the conviction, you have the belief and the trust, and you have the evidence, and it's fun, that's like pure alignment. And then it's just going to like, you're going to be excited to do this thing. And then that I feel like is what helps you, when they say like enjoy the journey, not the destination. I feel like that's what actually helps you enjoy it is when you are actually having fun and you're aligned with everything that's going on. it's like still work, but it doesn't necessarily always feel like work because it's like, well, I'm doing the stuff that I like, and I've, outsourced things that like really drag me down to somebody else who likes those things. So they're also in alignment because they're doing things that they like. And like if I'm sticking with fun, that's just gonna like up my frequency and my resonance. And then that's going to bring in more of the things that I need to build the belief. And then that's just going to build the conviction even further. So it's almost like a slow avalanche where you got to get the snowball started. And then all of a sudden it's like, blah, like, and it's harder, or it's easier said than done, because sometimes it's just like, I don't have any evidence. And that's when like the mind is like crazy. You have to just find it. And sometimes it can be the littlest thing. Like, here's some evidence. Like somebody said this one random nice thing about me. There's evidence that like I can accomplish this. You know, it doesn't always have to be, I made like 100 grand on this launch or whatever. It could just be like, hey, that person bought me a coffee or whatever. It's like, wow, okay, cool. But like looking for the evidence rather than just like, like, woe is me. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That is so powerful in the way that you've said that, because number one, I believe in frequencies and, vibes and vibration. The word, everything came
Hmm.
into existence by God just speaking it out. And so I think, just that we're creatures that can, that's how I like to say it. We're creatures that can
Hmm.
talk, that can communicate, that can use words. And I feel like life and death are in the power of the tongue. There's vibration there.
Hmm.
We're making sound, right? So, and that sound is
Yeah.
creating our realities. Just like whatever you believe, you're going to receive. So
Mhm.
the belief is so powerful, and it's
Yep.
in the messaging, in ancient scriptures that I call the Bible. This is something that is information and knowledge and wisdom that is available to us, but we don't understand how to use it sometimes.
Hmm.
And so I like how we're like reframing kind of like different ways of thinking about things.
Yeah.
I think that's very, very powerful and very necessary, especially in business. And I liked what you said about kind of like you got to be convicted. Like, what is the evidence? So one of the things, the way that I like to, because it made me think about like the way that I do that. It's a little bit
Hmm.
different.
Hmm.
And the way that I do that is kind of like I just sit down in my office and start and just ride the wave. I call it ride the wave of creativity.
Hmm.
I sit down in my office. The way that I even begin the wave, like getting in the water, is by writing down the tasks that I need to accomplish. With that, that's already evidence that I know what I'm doing,
Hmm.
right? Because I'm
Yeah, for
already
sure.
making a framework of what
Yeah.
it is that I'm going to be doing. And just sitting down and taking that action of sitting down and actually doing it gives me the motivation to keep going like, nah, I got this. I can do this.
Hmm.
And just put one foot in front of the other. So
Yeah,
thank
that's
you for
awesome.
that. Yeah. Thank you for that breakdown that other
Yeah.
people can also take that in their life.
Yeah. I like that. Like you sat down and mapped it out. So you already know that you know what to do. And I feel like that's actually a huge thing for a lot of entrepreneurs is not, and I mentioned this earlier, but like just not trusting ourselves that like we actually know what to do. And so we're always like looking for external validation to say, yes, you do know what you're doing, when it's all us. Like we have to be the ones that believe it. No matter how many people say, dude, you're awesome, or Linda, you rock, like if we don't think that about ourselves, there's nothing really anyone else can do. And if we're always seeking that, we're always going to be seeking it. Whereas like I like your framework because then it's like, yeah, if I didn't know what to do, I wouldn't have been able to just list out the tasks. And that's like really, really good. So thanks for sharing that with me.
Yes, absolutely. Because I'm like, how did I get here? I'm like,
Yeah.
just sitting down. Because
Yeah.
procrastination is going to hit. I hate it, but it's going to
Yeah.
hit. But I've learned whenever I sit down, even though, because sometimes there's these huge projects. I don't know about you, but sometimes I get these huge projects. And because they're huge and they look huge and they feel huge, you can procrastinate because
Hmm.
it's overwhelming emotionally. The weight of it, you can feel it. And you're just like, you
Yeah.
know what? I'm going to Netflix and just chill
Yeah.
out.
Hmm.
Right? But I've learned that if I just do the movement to just sit down in my office, even if I don't want to, even if I don't want to be there, it creates momentum.
Hmm.
And the momentum is for first mental. Well, obviously I can do it. Obviously I believe in myself because I'm already sitting down. I'm already sitting down on the computer or at where my place of work is to accomplish
Sure.
the task.
Yep.
So yeah, so I thought that was really cool. I like the way that you framed it because I'm like, oh shoot, I do that. I do
Yeah. Yeah,
all
that's
the
awesome.
time. The next question. So let's get into kind of like what you do and what you help
Mm,
people with. So you say that you help coaches and entrepreneurs clarify the message and craft an enrollment story that converts code traffic. Can
Yep.
you explain what an enrollment story is
Yeah.
and why it's so important?
Yeah. So an enrollment story is basically just a pitch. Now, sometimes when people hear the word pitch, they think of like, like sleazy car salesman or like Billy Mays or, like any of those like pitchmen. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about how do you communicate the value of what you are offering. And a lot of times what people will do in terms of their pitch is it's super unclear, like they don't actually know what the value is they're delivering, so then it makes it hard for them to communicate that. And then they like once they branch out from like warm audiences where people know them or they're referred by somebody, like they don't have any authority with a cold audience because they don't know them, and then so they don't really know how to sell what they offer, and then that's when sales stall out. So if then what usually happens is, wow, my sales are stalled out. I'm gonna have to like redo my funnel, fix my ads, change the content I'm putting out. When it's like, no, 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 no. Like all of that stuff is usually like in 99% of the cases I've seen, that stuff is all usually fine. It's just the foundational work of dialing in their messaging is off. And most people, it's like a vulnerable place when it's like something isn't working. It's easier to look at the external, like the funnel, the ads, the content, whatever, than it is to look at what's sort of internal, of like, okay, what's my messaging? How am I talking about this thing? All of that kind of stuff, because that's more intangible. You can go check off the box of, yep, create a new funnel. I'm going to roll this out and see what happens. Nothing's going to happen because it's filled with the same stuff. You have to fill it with better messaging and better dialed in positioning for what you're trying to sell. And so that's what I help businesses with is like, hey, you don't need to redo your offer most of the time. Like sometimes, but occasionally it's like very slim. Whereas most of the time, we don't even work on the offer itself, like the things people are getting. We literally just work on how they talk about it. And I have one person I brought through the process, and he went from like almost zero to like 30K. I think it was 30K in like 90 days from just doing this. Like, how are you talking about what you're offering your market? And it's like literally in my career, I would say this is the most important thing that most people spend the least amount of time on. The ones that are crushing it, dialed this in. 100% dialed in. That's why they're crushing it. It's not the funnel they use. It's not the ads they're running. It's the messaging they're using in the funnel, in the ads, in the emails. That's why they're crushing it, not because of the funnel itself. They could use any funnel and it would still work because they dialed in how they're talking about what they offer.
Well, Jeff, we want to crush it. Okay.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
want to crush it too.
yeah,
What would you say that we need to do in order to dial into our message? Because when we hear that, it can kind of sound kind of like, man, what does that mean? Right? What does
sure.
it mean to dial in or get my messaging right? Right? ChatGPT, what is my
Yeah,
messaging? You get what I'm
yeah,
saying? Like we
yeah,
automatically go to something like that. But I've learned that messaging is a lot more than a code pitch from ChatGPT on what it
yeah,
could be. Because, right, we talked about residents. We talked about all of that. And
yeah.
so how can we get dialed in? Like take us through the process and getting dialed in. Um, Help us out.
Yeah. So if you think about it, like the person you're talking to is at point A and you're already at point B, they want to also go to point B. You have to figure out how to meet them over at point A and communicate so that they come over to point B with you, or that they believe that you can show them how to get to point B. And you do that through connecting with them on the things that they're doing to try and solve that problem, talking to them about the problems they're currently experiencing and they're actively trying to solve. So I call those like action-oriented problems, the ones where they're like, I gotta go, like I'm laying up at night thinking about this problem. I'm Googling, I'm YouTubing, I'm social mediaing, trying to find the magic bullet to this thing. That's the thing you need to meet them at. and then show them, see myself in what this person is saying. Like you have to let them like kind of self-select or self-identify because you've identified the exact problem they're having, not some generalized version of it, but the exact problem they're having. And then you describe all the things they're doing and the symptoms that doing is causing them so that like subliminally, again, there's that word, you're communicating that you understand the situation they're in, and then you show them the path forward. So it's like, like if you have a broken arm and like you went into a doctor, and he was like, look, does your arm kill every time like you raise it above your elbow? And if I touch here, does it hurt? And then, man, that probably creates a headache like that just won't go away no matter what you do. And then that headache probably makes you like a little bit nauseous. And then you spend most of your days like hovering around the toilet because you're going to vomit at any point in time, right? Well, here's the deal. Like you have a broken arm that's causing all of those other things. And if you don't fix that, here's what's going to happen. And then you just like, you know what I mean? You're just like showing that you know exactly what's going on. So that logically they're like, okay, that makes total sense. How do I fix it? And then there is when you offer your product. Whereas what most people do is they're just like, hey, like vomiting a lot, your arm hurts, you probably got a broken arm. They're getting right to the root cause when we need to meet people where they're at and with what they're experiencing. So we can demonstrate that we know what they're talking about and we have experience with that and then diagnose their problem. Does that make sense?
Kind of. So, okay. For example, let me see if I got this.
Yeah.
Let's say you have someone that doesn't know how to say subliminal. and so you're telling them you don't know how to say big words like subliminal.
Yeah.
So you instead of saying the word itself, instead of, because you're saying you don't go straight to where the problem is, you got to kind of like soft,
well,
like,
you gotta go.
I could get offended if it's like, oh, you don't know big words, or I could get offended with that. Like, wait.
Yeah.
Or do you want to offend them? Do you want to be like
sort of? So I could say like, Linda, have you ever been on a podcast where you've been talking with a guest and like they used a word where you just kept struggling over and over because you just got tongue tied. And then, man, internally you were just like, oh my gosh, like you want to run and hide under your desk. And then another big word comes up. And because you're so stressed out about the one that happened last time, you stumble over that one. And it just becomes this snowball rolling down this hill of just like, oh my God. Yeah. The avalanche of just like, face palm, like it creates this.
I like that.
Yeah. It creates
sold me. So what are you selling?
Exactly. Right. So I'm just connected with like what you're experiencing versus just saying like, hey, Linda, if you can't say subliminal, like I got a course for you to like, show you how to say big words. You're going to be like, I don't want that. But if you were like, oh my God, I totally have experienced that and I want to fix that, here's this program that would help fix that.
Okay. So it's kind of like, for me to really get it in. So it's kind of like explaining it without pointing to what it really is. And then, but you point to what it is later on, maybe. Okay. Yeah, so after that, how do you present the solution?
Yeah. Yeah. So I just want to like clarify. So you're pointing to their experience. That's all you're doing.
That's wonderful. That's what I was thinking. Like,
yeah,
about what they're experiencing in that moment. Like, oh my
100%.
Gosh, that is me. And that's where you're resonating. You tap in the C string and they're like, I feel the C string.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes, exactly. So we're just connecting with their experience, not our experience as the expert or the business owner or whatever.
Yeah, because then you can kind of sound like arrogant, like,
yeah,
it's a broken arm, or I can't say subliminal.
And some people might not even know that they have that problem, but they do know that this is the problem I'm having.
They know the experience. Sometimes they don't even understand what the problem is.
Yes, correct.
Oh, that's deep. Okay.
And so if we lead with the root cause and they don't even know, they're going to be like, well, anyway, pass. But if we connect with their experience, then they're going to be like, got their attention. And now they're like, wow, well, how do I fix that?
Like, you're in my head.
Yes. And so, Linda, if you had this problem on your podcast, I have a simple script that can show you literally how to say any big word 100% correct every time. And all you have to do to get it is go to this link. You know what I mean? Like, that's
for the confidence to never like stumble on your words again.
Yeah.
It's like about big words. I can say supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. You get what I'm saying? But
That's like obviously a shortened version of it, but like it just opens the door for you to then say like, if you want this, cool, I have the thing that will help with that thing.
so basically, also tying in the experience that they want to have, and then boom, you want to have this particular experience. Here's the solution. Introducing then the
Correct.
product.
Yep.
That's wonderful. Wow. Anything you want to add to that? Because I'm like flabbergasted.
Yeah, I know nothing really to add. It's actually like it's crazy how simple it really is. The hard work is that most people don't go deep enough on this stuff. Like what problems are they having? What symptoms are they experiencing? What are they doing to try and fix it? They'll just, do like I answered it in like 2 seconds. Cool. On to the next one. Instead of like, what is the deeper level of that? And like going deeper and deeper. So it's like you connect on such a way that it's like anybody experiencing that would be like, whoa, that's like you had said earlier, you're in my head, that you want that reaction.
Yeah, I mean the face palm got me. Like that's what it was.
I've been there too. So
oh my God. So that's really good. Jeff, we can talk all day about this. I feel like we can go even deeper, but I know you gotta go. But where can people find you?
Yeah, so I'm on all social media, mainly on Instagram at I am Jeff Wenberg, and that's Wenberg. And that's the main spot where I just kind of put out content around this kind of stuff. And if your audience would find it useful, I do have a pitch GPT I put together with my framework to help you go deeper on this kind of stuff to craft a pitch that converts cold audiences. So that's just at jeffwenberg.com/pitch GPT.
Thank you.
Yeah.